So, I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit broken. So I hope you'll still understand me. So today I'm going to talk about designing with data. The context is like today we have more and more data available, be it quant or qual, so qualitative or quantitative, and we can do more and more like more and more informed decision making, design decision making. But to start, like I am often asked, because Facebook is a fascinating company and it fascinates a lot of people, how is it to design at Facebook? And usually what I say is the first thing that is really unique at Facebook is the scale. I mean, I worked in California and Silicon Valley, so there is also Google and Apple, so there are like these kind of big tech companies, but Facebook is one of them, and the scale is unprecedented. It's more than 2 billion people, so you just have to think about all of these people. You cannot ignore edge cases. The second one is that the complexity. You have to fit so many different devices, from TV to mobile, all type of Android phones. You cannot ignore one Android phone. Like obviously, it's going to being used by millions of people. And the third thing that is unique to Facebook is hard problems. Hard problems is, for instance, bullying online, hate speech, how to police public conversation, misinformation. All of these problems were non-existing before, like online networks. And Facebook is one of the major ones. And so that's also what makes things very unique and what shaped design at Facebook. And I'm saying this because there are also common design fears when it comes to design with data. So the first thing is metrics can't reflect quality of human experience. You can see like also some type of conflict between data, which is very like math-based, very number-based, and design, which is much more like almost like a liberal art. And so metrics drive short-term thinking, for instance. You could also argue for that. Or data focus development on micro-optimization. Like I'm going to increase the font size by 1 point and I get like that much more CTR. But all of this happens to be false when it comes to design at scale and design with complexity. Data will drive your design decisions. Data will help you design, and instead of being an obstacle of design. And this is what I'm going to try to show through this presentation. We live in an era of computational design. So at the beginning, design, let's say at the era of digital RAMs, so 40 years ago, design had a final state. I'm going to design a product, I'm going to design a razor, for instance, and the razor will have a final state, and then it's going to hit the shelves. And that's my design. At the web, today, there is no final state. When design used to shape products, it was product that will be sent to billions if the product was successful. Now, with online networks, we shape a product and it can scale to billions. So you really have to take into consideration different continents. Right now I'm doing a design for India, and just by focusing only on the India country, there are 22 languages. So you will have to think about how can I at the same time scale for one country, India, 22 languages, but scale for all the world, 5 continents. And you know this, but so data, models, algorithms now drive design. Before it was, how I'm going to make a design with wood, metal, plastic. Now it's how I make a design with data, with models, with algorithms. How does this shape my design decisions? So I did a little metaphor. I call it the product design box. So imagine a box, and this box is product design. The facets are the user experience. This is what you see. This is the pixels you push. But before you go to this facet, you have product design thinking. And product design thinking is like the months of development you do before, or the weeks of iterations you do before shipping a product. And product thinking is inside, and this is where data lives. What does it mean? It means like a lot of different layers. Data, and because then I'll talk more about data as numbers, but before that, data can be anything. And data can be academic papers. It can be macro trends. For instance, Uber people now use more and more mobile phones. They are more like inclined to book a taxi through a mobile app. That's a macro trend. Academic papers, for instance, for Facebook. How do people polarize their speech when they talk online? Third one is user research. Then you have an hypothesis. Then you want to get more data. And so you are going maybe to do a field trip. You are going to do street intercepts. Maybe you are going to go to Starbucks, ask people what they think about your product. This is data you have also to take into consideration. Then you have tests. If you are in a large company, you have the chance to have lab tests, so specific UX labs, and then you can see how people interact with your product or your prototypes. That's an additional data to think about. Then product surveys, like sentiments. How do you feel about this feature? And rate from 1 to 5. That's an additional data to think of. Product goals. Then you start to think about like much more business-centric. What is the goal of your product? What is the goal of your team? The company values, because the team is within the company. So what exactly the company exists and what does it try to achieve? And then you have a business model. How does my company operate? How does it make money? That's also data you have to think in your product design thinking. User needs. What are the top user needs that you are used to? Design principles. What is my way to approach design, personal, and what is the way to approach design for my team? And design audit. What is wrong with my designs? Where does my flow start to fail, or when does my flow is succeeding? And design critique. If you have the chance to be part of a large design team, you'll bring your designs and people who are going to critique it. So you also have to take that into considerations. So at the end, like what I mean with this product design box is like you have so much cross-functional data to think of, and each time you take into consideration an additional layer, each time your product design thinking is going to be better and it's going to make more sense. It's going to be more informed and stronger. And it's very tough to think about all of these things because they're not only like aggregate, it's a combination. Some of them influence each other. So it's very tough to think about the full picture, but at least trying to do so will help make your design more convincing. And it will drive three things. It will drive craft. So craft is really how you push pixels, what is your style. Do you want to make the rounding corner 6 point or 2 point? Maybe there is something here that can help you drive the decision. Second is problem solving. You have a problem to solve. That's why you are a designer. You want to solve problems for your company from a design perspective. And third, the vision. When you take into consideration each of these layers, how can it not only solve the situation right now, but how can it help to solve the future problems? How can you anticipate on the next big thing to solve for your company? And if you combine all of them, like you are kind of the ideal designer. I am not this ideal designer. I'm just trying to be. And I'm trying to think about this matrix each time I approach a problem. And I'm trying to gather data from each of these perspectives. I understand if you are on a startup, this is tough to have every information on all of this here, but it's still like doable to have like some of them. So now, because I talk extensively about what kind of data that is not like pure math data, I'm going to focus more on like how do you set metrics in a company and what are the mistakes not to do. And one of them is to start with numbers. What I mean by that is to avoid metrics to drive too much your product decisions. First, think about the goal. What are you trying to achieve? In the case of Facebook, it's connecting the world. But it's where the twist is they are trying to be more aspirational. So instead of connecting the world, it's like bring the world closer together. That's kind of like trying to be aspirational. And I think it's like kind of key. Each time you think about metric, is like, what is the aspiration behind it? And only then you can set the metric. And one of the metrics for Facebook is we have a goal to connect 1 billion people through groups in the next few years. That's a quote from the VP of Design at Facebook, one of the VP of Design at Facebook, Julie Zhou. And she says, the best way to select metrics isn't to start with numbers, but whether to start with a plain language statement about what a successful outcome would look like in human terms. In other words, how will people's life be improved through your product? So, when you are at a startup, it's very immediate environments. yes, you're trying to take informed design decision, but at the same time you want to launch, you want to test. So it's like I design, I launch, I design, I launch. Sometimes I do both at the same time. In a bigger company that tries to gather more and more data, like I just showed, at Facebook we go through different phases. We don't just do design, launch, design, launch, design, launch. We try to be more considerate because there are more than 2 billion people we need to serve. And so the phases are like this, is like design. So you do your design, you get your design critique, you get some academic papers from research peers at Facebook, and then you test. So you, once you come up with your concept, you start to test, either in lab or either in the streets, and you say, okay, where do my flow fail? What happens here? And once you get this data, you design again, and you improve. And after you get like kind of a solid prototype, you test it with like really like in real world, you ship it to 1%. You ship it to 1% of your user base. Actually, I'm saying 1% is even less because it would be too much. And then you retest and you go on and on like that. One of the principles we do, one of our approach is called a test plan. So what you do is you take your flow, it could be any kind of flow, and you break it in kind of keyframes. And you decide with your product manager what do you exactly want to test at a very definite point in your flow. And then you look, oh yes, like my button there is going plus 2%. This could be even go better. And then you really try to tweak. And once you have a convincing design, you just launch. And then you test again. There are some things to not do. Even if you are at a small startup or a big one or a bigger company, I call that ugly variance. So what happens is, like for instance, my PM would have a great idea and say, oh yeah, let's have this button 5 times the size. And I would say, no, maybe it's not the right decision. And he insists and say, okay, I'm going to give him a design and we're going to test it. The only problem with this ugly variant is like if it comes back with very strong data, it's going to be almost impossible for me to say no, because it will have shown like a success. And then it's how companies end up shipping ugly variants, is because at the beginning, design didn't say, no, I'm not going to design this because this is definitely ugly, and I don't feel comfortable shipping it if it succeeds. So each time you do A/B testing, don't have A ugly and B good, just have A good and B good, and then you don't know, and A/B test will help you decide which one is better. Vanity metrics. So an example of vanity metrics will be number of registration or sign up. So, oh yes, if we take into account like all the amount of signups at Facebook, maybe we reach 15 million people. I don't know how many fake accounts are there. But so an example of not a vanity metric is monthly active users. How many people really use my product? Or even like daily active users. How many people really use my product every day instead of just looking at signups? And the goal here is just to be honest and to be real. Because by setting real metrics, you'd be more real about how your product performs. A third mistake could be to do laundry listing. Oh yes, I have the opportunity to test everything. So I'm going to list 35 metrics I wish to test, and then I'm going to decide on this basis. I think a better approach is to really look at your product goal, and then you decide 2 top metrics. And from these 2 top metrics, you drive decisions. And it doesn't prevent you from testing other things, but you really have to narrow down your approach. Same way, it's good to be laser focused in your product approach on your design. Same with testing and metrics. Sorry. So, I don't know how much time I have left. Okay, great. I have 10 minutes. So before leaving, I wanted to open a little bit this subject. And about designing with data is actually symptomatic of what the role of a designer is becoming. And the role of a designer, more and more, is to be almost like a design op. I am a designer, but I understand how business works. I understand, for instance, I have analytical skills. I'm not only great at like deciding about the best color or the best typeface or the best white space or padding. I am also great at analyzing how a business is done, why my product exists on Earth, and what would be the best thing to do from a design perspective. The second thing is to have strong design belief. I really think that very successful designers are highly principled people. they are the one who can be kind of the check and balance in a product team. And because they have a really strong rationale, they can set limits and they can really approach their design in a consistent way. But that's not enough. A very successful designer will be somebody who is highly principled, but also understand how to quantify the impact. And it doesn't have to be, I want to do 10% CTR, a click button rate, but much more, okay, I'm doing a design. How does it impact? How can I measure my impact? And and it goes back to how do you set metrics? And I really believe that this discussion shouldn't be left to only product managers. Designers have a voice, not me right now, but and so that's kind of the conjunction of like, okay, I strongly believe in things, but also I'm realistic and I know how to make this happen because I'm going to talk much more like a business speak through quantifiable impact. And that goes to identify business value. And you don't think only about design, you think about the company mission statement. Just as we saw with Facebook, make the world closer together and then goal of 1 billion people in groups. And the last thing is to have understanding of UX research skills and PM talent. And what it means like you go outside your domains and you don't only think in terms of data, but you think in terms of like, oh, what would I do if I was a PM? Or what kind of things I would like to research? And once this research comes back, how can I really interpret it the right way? And just by going in this broad spectrum from, okay, I can be also a UX researcher, I can also be a PM, I am a designer at core, then you'll become like a great design hybrid. You'll become a great design up in a sense. And it will help you really to be proactive, to really drive your company forward, to be more influential. And this was one of my limits as a junior designer. It was really like, I was only looking in terms of design. I was only thinking in terms of pixels. And as soon as I started to expand a little bit my domain, I started to have influence. And then people came to me for like taking decisions or having like an opinion on things and how business should be run. And I think that's kind of the future of what designers should be. That was my last slide. One last thing though. Just check out facebook.design. There is a great post that summarizes this approach on data. And yes, Facebook is hiring, is always looking for new designers to come aboard. So if you're interested, look also at the careers section. And that's it. I am at Hyacinthe on Twitter, if you want to reach me. And that's it. Thanks.
Any questions? Я боюсь, да. Поэтому и боюсь.
Hi, thank you for the slides. It was great. My name is Paulina, and I wanted to ask you, how do you store the data you use? Like, it's been a big question today, how people store their UX feedback.
So, if I understand well, you're asking how does Facebook store data? Is that right? Is it user data or the data we use? So, I mean, within the product team is very informal. It could be we'll have a data scientist that is going to run an analysis, and then these findings will be shared internally or to me. So we don't really store it. We kind of like ask for some specific data points. And then about, I was talking about academic research. This data is actually on some of these academic papers are public, and they are like stored, shown on a website. So I don't know if I answer correctly, but okay.
Hello. Actually, I have 3 questions. The first one, are you French?
Yes.
Hello, also. The second question, I really believe that designers have to learn more about design, but why most of agency or companies ask for code or programming skills more than business skills? And the third question is, how do we have to choose between qualitative and quantitative research? Is this about the context of the research itself, or it's about like the level of the prototype we use? Is it low? So if we have a low prototype, we have to use quantitative research.
Great question. So to your second question, what was it already? I was to the third one first. So the third question was, when is the best time to do quantitative or qualitative research? I really believe it depends on the cycle of your design development or of the product cycle. If you are like thinking about the concept and you have really early mocks, not even a prototype, I think this is great for qualitative research. What you are trying to guess here is like, what is the initial gut reaction to something? You're not trying to improve usability. You're not trying to look at how people think about the color of a button or anything like that. You're really trying to understand, okay, if I give people this kind of concept, what do they think? What is their initial reaction? So the visual is almost only a support to get qualitative input. But as soon as you refine more, you narrow down your approach, then quantitative can help a lot. And you have two types of way to do quantitative. I mean, actually you have more, but like there are several types. One of them could be, while you're doing quantitative research, let's say it's street intercept, you can still say, okay, 7 people like this thing, 5 people didn't like too much, and you can run variations. But the best way then is to have it kind of an A/B testing framework, and then you can really like drive decisions. So yeah, I would say qualitative at the beginning and more quantitative at the end. And the second one was, I forgot.
Yeah.
So the second one was why companies are looking for designers who know how to code. Is that yeah? So actually, that's a very interesting question. I think it depends on the profile of the company and also maybe the industry or the country culture. In the United States, the professional culture is to be very specialized. Is really to come to the market with really big means, with really like a lot of horsepower, and so therefore the product team is like plentiful. Especially in mature companies like Facebook. And so as a designer, I'm not asked to code. I'm actually like, I have too many things just by thinking about design. I think in really smaller companies, like maybe like 2% startup, or maybe it makes sense. But even like that means like, yeah, you think that you just need half of a designer then. And I think though that engineers who are designers before maybe make great front-end engineers, you know, but their goal is to code, you know, much more. So I understand the market need, but I don't know if it's the right approach in some contexts.
Hi, and thank you for your presentation. It was super interesting. And my question is, how do you do that design in Facebook? Like, what approach do you use to distinguish, for example, UX writers, UX designer separately? Or do you encourage that so-called unicorn designers in your company?
So, Facebook hire what we call generalists. So designers who can shape a product end-to-end, can shape a design end-to-end. So it goes from wireframes to really pixel perfection. And they have also a good dose of product thinking. However, since it's a very mature company, I mean, in terms of like development, product development, the design functions are very, very defined. And they consist of UX researchers. And even in UX researcher, you have like more quantitative UX researcher, more qualitative UX researcher. So most of them have PhDs in sociology or anthropology. Then you have content strategists. Content strategists are like UX writers. They choose the words. They often come from a journalistic literature background. Third is designers, product designers like me. And then you have product design managers, people who just are helping you to ship what you need to ship. And then there is design program managers who kind of make sure we use best practices, like we coordinate between teams. Or there is this new process, we're going to use it now, you know? So that's kind of the different functionalities we have. But the most interesting things to me is like content strategists, copywriters are very distinct from designers. I mean, we collaborate, but I'm not going to pick any word on my designs at Facebook. I let somebody else do it.
How many people is in your team?
I can't say that.
Thank you very much.
Let's say I want to join Facebook. Do I have to have like a design diploma to join Facebook?
No, I don't have one, so you're good. And if you want to join Facebook, you can just contact me, and yeah, that's it.
But what are the skills?
So it's I showed one of the slides. It was a combination of craft, product thinking, and vision. And what we're looking when we hire designers, it's really like a combination of the three, maybe at different levels, but at least strong in one field. So somebody would be super strong at visual and craft. It's okay if product design thinking is not there yet. Somebody who's really strong at product thinking, but the craft is not there, also it's okay. And generalists, that means people who show experience to have thought the product end to end, from like the ideation to the shipping, and they went to all the phases in this product cycle.
What's the hiring process?
So it usually starts just with a screening call from a recruiter, and then you have 2 calls again with designers, and you have like kind of, we test you, we do an app critique, so we choose an app and you have to critique it, and second, you just show your portfolio, and after that you can come on site, and in this case you get app critique again, you show your portfolio, and you get a problem solving, so to test your product design thinking. Yeah.
The last one? Anybody?
Не бойтесь, я могу подать правду. Самый ответ.
I think it will be a long queue for you if you say everybody who wants to come to Facebook, just come to me. Okay, that's all. So thank you very much.